Hi everyone! For those of you who may not be able to recognize me by just my voice, my name is Mary and I'm your Training and Development Director here at RocVentures Climbing Gym in Rochester, New York. I quickly wanted to go over some COVID-19 safety protocols and how we can prevent the spread of germs here within our facility. One of the first things touched on by the Society for Human Resource Management is social distancing. It's recommended that we be at least 3 feet apart from each other, but 6 feet would be preferred. If we can't be 6 feet, at least be 3 feet. It's also recommended that we avoid in-person meetings to promote this social distancing, and that we should use telecommunication instead of these in-person meetings. This would mean our morning meeting to open up the building would take place via email, or maybe even over the loudspeaker with the phone, so everyone can listen in from a safe space and not have to be in close quarters with anyone else. It's also recommended we avoid common areas during lunchtime. You should bring your lunch from home and eat away from others in an area such as your desk or your car. Please avoid the break room, as this is a high-touch area and germs can quickly spread within this room. One of the next things touched on is cleaning. Common surfaces and areas should be regularly disinfected with a good disinfectant. This would be such as doorknobs, faucets, printers, desktops, and keyboards. Germs travel fast, and multiple hands touching one area makes them travel even faster. With our building having rental equipment for our climbers, we should also be disinfecting this equipment on a regular basis. The harnesses and shoes are open to the public to rent, so we need to be cleaning them after every single use. This disinfectant that's being used on the high-touch surface areas should also be used on this equipment. Next, I'm going to touch on personal hygiene. One of the most common things talked about with this pandemic is washing your hands. The Society for Human Resource Management recommends that you wash your hands for at least 20 seconds on each side, scrubbing vigorously using warm, soapy water, and that if you're going to use a hand sanitizer, it needs to be alcohol-based. This should be applied by rubbing your hands until they are dry. Next, if you're going to cough or sneeze, you should be covering your mouth, even if you're in a mask. And if you can't cover your mouth, grab a tissue that you can throw away and cough and sneeze into that. This prevents any germs from floating out into the air that can cause infection to anyone that may be around you. Finally, it's been recommended that you don't touch your face. It's very common for us to touch our nose, mouth, and eyes. So if we can avoid touching those areas as often as we do, it can prevent the spread of germs from going around our building. Did you know that it is common to touch these areas once every 3 or 4 minutes? You might not even realize that. But bringing awareness to touching your nose, mouth, and eyes can help us prevent from doing so. Next, I'm going to talk about your health. It should be common knowledge knowing that if you are sick, you should not be coming into work. But especially during a pandemic, this is so important. We recommend if you have any flu-like symptoms, that would be something such as 100-degree or more fever, a runny nose, headache, body aches, body chills, you may have some fatigue, or a sore throat, you should not be coming into work. This will help prevent that illness from spreading to anyone else in the building. It's also been recommended by the Society for Human Resource Management that if you are sick, you should remain home for at least 24 hours until after that fever breaks. You never know if it's going to come back, and staying home 24 hours after that fever breaks will let you know that it is safe for you to return to our building. Next, I'm going to touch on transportation to and from work. This area can be a little tricky because not everyone has a car, and especially with us being located in downtown Rochester, public transportation is such a huge thing to use. It has been recommended that you avoid public transportation whenever possible. This means, if you can, you should walk, ride a bike, or even drive your own car to work. This way you're not around others that you don't live with, and you're going to prevent the spread of germs or getting sick. It also has been recommended that if you cannot avoid public transportation, you should avoid a rush hour of this public transportation. This means you should leave early or late to work to avoid busy hours. So if you know you need to be at work at 8 in the morning, you should probably leave around 6:30 to avoid a rush hour. And if you know you leave work around 4:45, maybe stay a little bit late because 5 is a very busy hour for public transportation. This way you're not on a crowded bus or subway with anyone else that could be sick. I'm finally going to touch on community climbing. It has been recommended that we limit our occupancy. This means that classes and sizes of groups need to be limited to avoid close contact with individuals that you may not reside with. The amount of climbers allowed within the building to limit exposure is also going to be small. People may not live with everyone that they come in with, and limiting the amount of people that we allow in the building can help prevent the spread of germs, especially if we have large groups coming in. It's also common knowledge that these groups should be socially distant, so they should not be around each other if they don't live with one another. Now, I want to touch on our current policies we have going on within our building since we have reopened to the public. Our motto is where climbing meets community, and that's being pushed even more now with this pandemic. The community is finally coming back together, and we want to embrace the climbing aspect of having everyone back to normal, or at least somewhat normal. So here at RocVenture, we are mandating that masks be worn at all times when within the building. We're limiting the amount of people inside the building to 75. We're encouraging hand washing after climbing is complete. We're doing health screening questions when people arrive at the building. We're distancing people 6 feet from climbers that they do not live with. Even if they come in the same group, if you don't live with that individual, you're going to be 6 feet from them on the wall. And finally, rental equipment is being properly cleaned after each and every use. On the side here, you're going to see our occupancy counter. This will let you know on our website how many climbers we currently have in the building. So at 9:06 p.m. on the day this picture was taken, we had 11 climbers. The lower the bar is, the more likely it is that we will have room for you if you show up in a walk-in. Once we get up towards that 75, it's going to let people know, hey, maybe now is not the best time for me to be going climbing because the building is very busy. If we can have this open to the public so they can see this knowledge and know when it is okay for them to come climbing, we're going to be seeing more business coming in the building. Lastly, I do have some recommendations to go off of our current policies. That way then we can keep our climbers safe and keep our building open. I believe we should have a reservation time to come and climb. Currently, there is no need to reserve a time, but I feel that our climbing tracker could be a little bit slow. One day I went to check it and it had not updated for 4 hours. If we can reserve a time, we'll know exactly how many people are here within the building, and we'll be able to keep it under that 75 limit. It's not mentioned if we're taking temperatures upon arrival and before we allow entry. It only says health screening. So if we're not, I recommend taking a temperature and not allowing entrance into the building if their temperature is above a 100-degree mark. This will prevent infection from spreading between climbers or even getting to our staff. Also, if we're going to be disinfecting high-touch areas, I think we should be disinfecting the climbing wall every hour. This can be done with a spray and done in sections. It's a 10,000 square foot building with close to 3,000 square feet of walls. We can disinfect in sections to still allow climbers on different areas of the wall. This way, the rock wall is being disinfected and we know our climbers are being kept safe. And finally, we should be disinfecting the lobby and the bathrooms every hour as well. This way we're preventing the spread of germs from going around, and everyone that's coming within our building knows that they are being kept safe. If you have any other questions or maybe even suggestions for where you'd like to see our company go, I provided my email, my Facebook, and my Twitter. You can reach out to me on any of these platforms. I usually reply within an hour. And finally, if you'd like to look at any of my sources I've used today or get to know any of these policies a little bit better, I provided them here on the screen. Thank you everyone for listening, and happy climbing!